Imagine a society with no prisons, no police patrols, no iron bars. And yet, peace prevailed. Not because conflict didn't exist, not because people were perfect, but because justice was understood differently. Long before modern prison systems spread across the world, there were African kingdoms that governed themselves without cages, without armed enforcement, without institutions designed to isolate human beings from society. And somehow, they endured. Tonight, we step into one of those worlds. And as we do, pay attention, because the principles that held this kingdom together may challenge everything we assume about order, crime, and justice. We'll return to that. In parts of pre-colonial Africa, across regions such as the Akan states of West Africa, the Igbo communities, and many southern and eastern African societies, governance did not revolve around punishment. It revolved around balance. Leadership existed. Authority existed. Law existed. But law was not written in thick books. It lived in memory, in proverbs, in shared understanding. At the center of many of these societies sat councils of elders, men and women chosen not by force, but by wisdom, lineage, and trust. Their role was not to command with fear. It was to preserve harmony. Because in these societies, a crime was not just a broken rule. It was a tear in the fabric of the community. And that changes everything. When conflict emerged, theft, insult, injury, there were no armed officers arriving to remove someone in chains. Instead, the community gathered, under a tree, in a courtyard, at the center of the village. The accused did not disappear behind walls. They faced the people they had harmed. This was community-based justice. The elders listened first, not to punish, but to understand. What happened? Why did it happen? Who was affected? Responsibility was not abstract. It was personal. Because in a tightly woven society, every action echoed. And here's the part many overlook. The goal was not revenge. It was restoration. We'll come back to why that mattered so deeply. If someone stole livestock, they did not lose years of their life in confinement. They compensated, sometimes with goods, sometimes with labor, sometimes through public acknowledgement and apology. If someone caused harm, they repaired what they could. And if reconciliation was possible, it was pursued. Because isolation was seen as dangerous, not just for the individual, but for the community itself. To cut someone off completely was to weaken the whole. This restorative system worked not because people feared punishment, it worked because people feared dishonor, disconnection, the loss of belonging. In many African philosophies, a person becomes fully human through others. I am because we are. So justice focused on bringing someone back into alignment with that truth. And the surprising part, it sustained order for generations, without prisons, without police. Why did it work? Because the philosophy beneath it was different. In many of these kingdoms, wrongdoing was seen as imbalance, a disruption of harmony between individuals, ancestors, and the living community. Justice, then, was not about inflicting pain. It was about healing imbalance. Elders acted almost like moral physicians. They diagnosed the fracture. They prescribed restoration. Sometimes rituals were involved, sometimes symbolic gestures, sometimes shared meals to mark reconciliation. The point was not humiliation. It was reintegration. And this approach influenced everything: leadership selection, family structure, trade relationships, even spiritual life. Order was internal before it was external. Control came from conscience before enforcement. But this wisdom did not remain untouched. And this matters. With colonization came a different model: codified laws, centralized authority, prison buildings, uniformed enforcement. Justice shifted from communal reconciliation to state punishment. Conflict moved from open courtyards to enclosed courtrooms. The language changed, the philosophy changed. And slowly, systems that had relied on collective responsibility were replaced by institutions designed to separate. Some indigenous practices survived quietly. Some adapted. Some were dismissed as primitive. Yet even today, echoes remain. Modern restorative justice programs, now praised in parts of the Western world, mirror principles African societies practiced centuries earlier. Circles, mediation, reconciliation, different names, old wisdom. We'll leave that thought with you. So what does this tell us? It tells us that prisons are not inevitable. Police systems are not universal. They are historical choices, shaped by particular worldviews. There were societies that maintained order not through fear of isolation, but through fear of broken relationships. Not through walls, but through responsibility. This does not mean those kingdoms were perfect. Conflict existed, power dynamics existed, human flaws existed, but their answer to disorder was not removal, it was restoration. And perhaps the deeper question is this: what do we believe justice is for? Is it to punish or to repair? Is it to isolate or to reintegrate? History rarely gives us simple answers, but it gives us perspective. A society without prisons. Not because crime didn't exist, but because justice was reimagined. If this challenged your understanding of governance, of law, of order, stay curious, because sometimes the future of justice is hidden in the past.